The house settled around me like it always did at midnight. Old bones. Wood groaning. Pipes ticking. I'd lived in this split level on Maple Street for 32 years, and I knew every sound. Every creak. Every whisper. But this wasn't a house sound. I was in the kitchen, pouring the last of the coffee into a chipped mug. Couldn't sleep. Never could after Jeannie died. 3 years now, and my body still woke at 2:17 every night like it was waiting for her to roll over and mumble about the dog that we didn't have a dog anymore. The basement door was half open at the end of the hallway. Faint yellow light bled up the stairs. That was odd. Paul never went down there. He said the place gave him the creeps. Said it smelled like wet concrete and old secrets. That I set the mug down. My knees popped as I walked. 67 years of construction work had turned my joints into percussion instruments. The light was on. The pull chain bulb hung low over the workbench, swaying just a little. Someone had been down here. The old freezer hummed. The water heater ticked. And then I heard it. Paul's voice. Low. Muttered. Like he was talking to himself, but didn't want anyone to hear it. No one finds the truth. I froze. My son-in-law. The man who'd married my daughter 6 years ago. The man who coached Little League and grilled burgers on Sundays and never raised his voice. The man who cried at Jeannie's funeral harder than I did. He was standing near the far wall, facing the corner. His back was to me. He wore his gray sweats and a faded Eagles t-shirt. His hands were at his sides, trembling. No one finds it, he said again. They never do. I should have said something. Called his name. Asked what he was doing. But I didn't. Because in his right hand, I saw something catch the light. Metal. Long, thin. A knife. My throat closed up. My heart started hammering against my ribs like it wanted out. I stepped back, slow, careful. My heel hit a loose board, and it clacked. Paul spun around. His eyes were wide. Wild. Sweat slicked his forehead. He looked at me like I was a ghost. Frank, he said. I didn't hear you come down. The knife was still in his hand. A kitchen knife. The one with the wooden handle that I'd had since 1989. What are you doing? My voice came out gravelly. Strained. He looked down at the knife like he'd forgotten he was holding it. Then he shoved it behind his back like a kid caught stealing candy. Nothing. Just, I dropped something. A screw. You know how it is. He was lying. I've been on job sites for 50 years. I know when a man is lying. It's in the shoulders. The way they hike up toward the ears. The way the eyes dart to the exit. At midnight, I said. You dropped a screw at midnight in my basement. He swallowed hard. I couldn't sleep. Thought I'd fix that loose step. The one upstairs. You don't do repairs, Paul. You call me. You always call me. Silence. He took a step forward. I took a step back. The air between us suddenly felt thick. Wrong. Frank, listen, he said. You have to trust me. Whatever you think you heard, it's not what it sounds like. Then what was it? He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked past me toward the stairs. Just go back to bed, he said. Please. I'll explain tomorrow. I nodded. Turned. Climbed each step like it was made of glass. But at the top, I didn't go to bed. I stood in the dark hallway and watched the basement door. Waiting. My hands shook. My jaw ached from clenching. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then Paul came up. His hands were empty. The knife was gone. He walked past my hiding spot without seeing me, climbed the stairs to the second floor, and shut the guest room door. I waited another 20 minutes. Then I went back down. The basement smelled the same. Concrete. Dust. The faint metallic tang of old pipes. But something was different. The air felt moved. Disturbed. I walked to the corner where he'd been standing. The floorboards were old oak, laid down by the original owner in 1957. I'd replaced a few over the years. I knew every grain. And there, near the baseboard, I saw a scratch. Fresh. Long. Like something heavy had been dragged across the wood. I knelt down. My knees screamed. My fingers traced the scratch to the edge of a board that didn't quite sit right. It was raised by maybe a 1/4 inch on one side. I worked my fingers into the gap. Pulled. The board came up easy. Too easy. Like it had been pried loose before. Beneath it was a space. Dark. About the size of a shoebox. And inside that space, my breath caught. A knife. The same knife. Paul had put it back. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. There was something else. Something wrapped in a rag. Old. Faded. I unwrapped it with fingers that didn't feel like my own. A photograph. A girl. Maybe 16. Long brown hair. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. She wore a jean jacket and stood in front of a high school. Our high school. The same one my daughter had gone to. I recognized her. Everyone in town recognized her. Megan Holloway. She'd disappeared 22 years ago. Vanished without a trace. The case went cold. People stopped talking about it. And here was her picture, hidden in my basement, under a floorboard, with a knife. I sat back on my heels. The house creaked above me. Somewhere a car passed on Maple Street, headlights sweeping across the high windows. My son-in-law had a picture of a dead girl. My son-in-law had a knife. My son-in-law whispered about the truth at midnight. And in that moment, I knew two things with absolute certainty. One, Paul knew something about Megan Holloway. Two, whatever that truth was, he was willing to kill to keep it hidden. I rewrapped the photograph, put it back, replaced the board and pressed it down until the scratch still showed. Then I went upstairs, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the basement door until dawn. When Paul came down that morning, he was smiling, cheerful. He asked if I wanted eggs. Sure, I said, sunny side up. He didn't know that I knew. He didn't know that I'd already made my first call. Not to the police, to my daughter, Sarah. I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. Not on the phone. Come over. Now. She asked what was wrong. I said, I'll tell you when you get here. And I hung up, because I had a terrible, gut-churning feeling that my son-in-law wasn't the only one hiding something in this house. The house settled around me like it always did at midnight. Old bones. Wood groaning. Pipes ticking. I'd lived in this split level on Maple Street for 32 years, and I knew every sound. Every creak. Every whisper. But this wasn't a house sound. I was in the kitchen, pouring the last of the coffee into a chipped mug. Couldn't sleep. Never could after Jeannie died. 3 years now, and my body still woke at 2:17 every night like it was waiting for her to roll over and mumble about the dog. We didn't have a dog anymore. The basement door was half open at the end of the hallway. Faint yellow light bled up the stairs. That was odd. Paul never went down there. He said the place gave him the creeps. Said it smelled like wet concrete and old secrets. I set the mug down. My knees popped as I walked. 67 years of construction work had turned my joints into percussion instruments. The light was on. The pull chain bulb hung low over the workbench, swaying just a little. Someone had been down here. The old freezer hummed. The water heater ticked. And then I heard it. Paul's voice. Low. Muttered. Like he was talking to himself, but didn't want anyone to hear. No one finds the truth. I froze. My son-in-law. The man who'd married my daughter 6 years ago. The man who coached Little League and grilled burgers on Sundays and never raised his voice. The man who cried at Jeannie's funeral harder than I did. He was standing near the far wall, facing the corner. His back was to me. He wore his gray sweats and a faded Eagles t-shirt. His hands were at his sides, trembling. No one finds it, he said again. They never do. I should have said something. Called his name. Asked what he was doing. But I didn't. Because in his right hand, I saw something catch the light. Metal. Long, thin. A knife. My throat closed up. My heart started hammering against my ribs like it wanted out. I stepped back, slow, careful. My heel hit a loose board, and it clacked. Paul spun around. His eyes were wide. Wild. Sweat slicked his forehead. He looked at me like I was a ghost. Frank, he said. I didn't hear you come down. The knife was still in his hand. A kitchen knife. The one with the wooden handle that I'd had since 1989. What are you doing? My voice came out gravelly. Strained up, he looked down at the knife like he'd forgotten he was holding it. Then he shoved it behind his back like a kid caught stealing candy. Nothing. Just, I dropped something. A screw. You know how it is. He was lying. I've been on job sites for 50 years. I know when a man is lying. It's in the shoulders. The way they hike up toward the ears. The way the eyes dart to the exit. At midnight, I said. You dropped a screw at midnight in my basement. He swallowed hard. I couldn't sleep. Thought I'd fix that loose step. The one upstairs. You don't do repairs, Paul. You call me. You always call me. Silence. He took a step forward. I took a step back. The air between us suddenly felt thick. Wrong. Frank, listen, he said. You have to trust me. Whatever you think you heard, it's not what it sounds like. Then what was it? He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked past me toward the stairs. Just go back to bed, he said. Please. I'll explain tomorrow. I nodded. Turned. Climbed each step like it was made of glass. But at the top, I didn't go to bed. I stood in the dark hallway and watched the basement door. Waiting. My hands shook. My jaw ached from clenching. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then Paul came up. His hands were empty. The knife was gone. He walked past my hiding spot without seeing me, climbed the stairs to the second floor, and shut the guest room door. I waited another 20 minutes. Then I went back down. The basement smelled the same. Concrete, dust, the faint metallic tang of old pipes. But something was different. The air felt moved, disturbed. I walked to the corner where he'd been standing. The floorboards were old oak, laid down by the original owner in 1957. I'd replaced a few over the years. I knew every grain. And there, near the baseboard, I saw it. A scratch. Fresh. Long. Like something heavy had been dragged across the wood. I knelt down. My knees screamed. My fingers traced the scratch to the edge of a board that didn't quite sit right. It was raised by maybe a quarter inch on one side. I worked my fingers into the gap. Pulled. The board came up easy. Too easy. Like it had been pried loose before. Beneath it was a space. Dark. About the size of a shoebox. And inside that space, my breath caught. A knife. The same knife. Paul had put it back. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. There was something else. Something wrapped in a rag. Old. Faded. I unwrapped it with fingers that didn't feel like my own. A photograph. A girl. Maybe 16. Long brown hair. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. She wore a jean jacket and stood in front of a high school. Our high school. The same one my daughter had gone to. I recognized her. Everyone in town recognized her. Megan Holloway. She'd disappeared 22 years ago. Vanished without a trace. The case went cold. People stopped talking about it. And here was her picture, hidden in my basement, under a floorboard, with a knife. I sat back on my heels. The house creaked above me. Somewhere a car passed on Maple Street, headlights sweeping across the high windows. My son-in-law had a picture of a dead girl. My son-in-law had a knife. My son-in-law whispered about the truth at midnight. And in that moment, I knew two things with absolute certainty. 1. Paul knew something about Megan Holloway. 2. Whatever that truth was, he was willing to kill to keep it hidden. I rewrapped the photograph, put it back, replaced the board, and pressed it down until the scratch still showed. Then I went upstairs, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the basement door until dawn. When Paul came down that morning, he was smiling, cheerful. He asked if I wanted eggs. Sure, I said. Sonny sighed up. He didn't know that I knew. He didn't know that I'd already made my first call. Not to the police. To my daughter. Sarah, I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. Not on the phone. Come over. Now. She asked what was wrong. I said, I'll tell you when you get here. And I hung up. Because I had a terrible, gut-churning feeling that my son-in-law wasn't the only one hiding something in this house. But sitting there in the gray morning light, with the coffee growing cold in front of me, I started thinking about everything I'd given up for this family. And I mean everything. I met Jeannie in 1985. She was working at the diner on Route 12, the one with the cracked vinyl booths and the neon sign that buzzed all night. I was 26, pouring concrete for a new strip mall. I walked in for a cup of coffee, and she smiled at me. That smile. It hit me like a wrecking ball. I went back every day for 2 weeks before I worked up the nerve to ask her out. She said yes, and I thought I'd won the lottery. But Jeannie came with a package. A daughter. Sarah was 3 years old when I met her. Skinny little thing with pigtails and a wariness in her eyes that broke my heart. Her father had split before she was born. Never paid a dime in child support. Never sent a birthday card. Jeannie was raising her alone, working double shifts at the diner, coming home with aching feet and tired eyes. I fell in love with both of them. I proposed to Jeannie 6 months in. She cried. She said I was the best thing that had ever happened to her. But she also said something else. She said, Frank, I need you to understand. Sarah is my whole world. Everything I do for her. If you marry me, you marry her too. And she has to come first. Always. I nodded. I meant it. I told her I'd be the best father Sarah could ever ask for. And I worked 60 hours a week, sometimes 70. Construction is brutal on the body. By the time I was 40, my back was already shot. My hands were calloused and cracked. I'd come home smelling like asphalt and sweat, and I'd still find the energy to play tea party with Sarah. I'd sit on the floor with my aching knees, holding a tiny plastic cup, pretending to sip pretend tea while Sarah rearranged her stuffed animals and told me stories about a princess who lived in a castle made of clouds. I fixed her bike when the chain fell off. I taught her how to catch a baseball. I went to every school play, every parent-teacher conference. I sat in the front row at her dance recitals, The only dad there, clapping so hard my palms stung. When she had nightmares, I carried her back to bed and sat by her side until she fell asleep. When she got her first period and was too embarrassed to tell Jeannie, she told me. I went to the store, bought the supplies, and never made her feel weird about it. I did all of it. Every single thing a father does. Even though I was just the stepdad. Even though, deep down, I always knew I was second place. Sarah loved me. I think she did. She called me dad from the time she was 5. She hugged me. She drew me Father's Day cards. She cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke up with her. I was there for the big stuff and the small stuff. But she never really saw me. Not the way a daughter should see a father. I was just there. A fixture. The guy who paid the bills and fixed the leaky faucet and drove her to soccer practice. And after Jeannie died, it got worse. 3 years ago, when the cancer took her, everything shifted. Sarah closed herself off. She'd always been closer to her mother than to me, which I understood. I didn't resent it. Jeannie was her blood. I was the man who married in. But after the funeral, Sarah started pulling away. She'd call less, visit less. When she did come over, she'd have her phone in her hand, texting, distracted. She'd ask how I was doing, but she didn't really want to know. She was going through the motions. Then Paul came along. Handsome, confident, a banker with a nice car and a nice smile. Sarah fell hard. I tried to like him. I really did. But something about him always felt off. Too smooth. Too careful. Like he was performing. I told Sarah once, very gently, that I thought he might be hiding something. She blew up at me. Told me I was jealous. Told me I'd never approved of anyone she dated. Told me that maybe I needed to focus on my own life and stop interfering in hers. That I apologized. I begged her forgiveness. I didn't want to lose her. She was all I had left. And so I swallowed it. Like I swallowed everything else. Every sideways comment Paul made about my old-fashioned ways. Every time he joked about me being past my prime. Every time Sarah rolled her eyes at me when I tried to offer advice, that I kept my mouth shut and I smiled, and I poured the coffee and I pretended everything was fine. Because that was my role. The quiet, dependable stepdad. The man who never complained. The man who fixed the sink and shoveled the driveway and never asked for anything in return. The man who loved a woman who was never really his, and a daughter who belonged to someone else. And now here I was, huddled in the dark, watching the basement door, holding a photograph of a missing girl that my dead wife had hidden under the floorboards. My son-in-law had been down there with a knife. My daughter was on her way over, and she didn't know any of it. But I knew something else now. Something I'd never admitted to myself before. The years of bending backward, the years of making myself small, the years of being grateful for scraps of affection, I was done with it. I had been invisible for too long. And invisibility, I realized, had its uses. I turned the photograph over in my hands. Jeannie's handwriting on the back. Megan's face smiling out at me like she had a secret. What did you know, Jeannie? What did you hide from me all those years? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? I sat there at the kitchen table, waiting for my daughter, and for the first time in 30 years, I stopped thinking about what everyone else needed from me. I started thinking about what I needed. That I needed the truth, even if it burned everything down. Sarah pulled into the driveway at 8:17. I watched her from the kitchen window, my coffee long gone cold. She sat in her car for a full minute before getting out, just staring at the house, like she knew something was wrong. That she was always like that. My daughter. She felt things before they happened. Got it from her mother. The front door opened. Her footsteps in the hall. Measured. Careful. Dad. Her voice was soft. Wary. In here. She came into the kitchen. She was wearing her work clothes, black slacks, a blazer, sensible flats. She looked tired. There were shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. What's so important that you couldn't tell me over the phone? She set her purse on the counter. Is it your heart? Did you see the doctor? I told you to. Sit down, Sarah. She stopped, looked at my face. Whatever she saw there made her go pale. Dad, you're scaring me. Sit down. I said again. She Saturday. I told her everything. The midnight trip to the basement. The whispers. The knife. The photograph. The loose floorboard. I left nothing out. By the time I finished, her hands were gripping the edge of the table. White-knuckled. Paul, she said. My Paul. There's no other Paul in this house. No. No. That's... She shook her head. He wouldn't. He couldn't. He's the gentlest man I've ever met. He cried when he hit a deer on the highway. He cried. People cry, Sarah. That doesn't mean they don't hide things. She stood up abruptly. Where's the photograph? Show me. We went down together. The basement light was still on. I knelt at the corner, my knees screaming again, and pried up the board. The rag was there. The photograph was there. I handed it to her. She looked at Megan Holloway's face for a long time. Her jaw tightened. Her breathing changed. I knew her, she whispered. What? I knew her. In high school. She was a senior when I was a freshman. She used to tutor me in algebra. She was sweet. Quiet. She wore that jacket every day. Did Paul know her? Sarah shook her head. He didn't grow up here. He came here after college. For that job at the bank. She turned the photograph over. And we both saw it. Written on the back in faded blue ink. Megan, senior prom, 1998. Prom, I said. He has a photo from her senior prom. How does that happen? Sarah was crying now. Silent tears rolling down her cheeks. I don't know, she said. I don't know anything anymore. I took the photograph back. Rewrapped it. Replaced the board. We need to think carefully, I said. If Paul is involved in something from 22 years ago, we need to be smart. We need to call the police, Sarah said. No, Dad. There's a missing girl's picture in your basement, and Paul was down here with a knife in the middle of the night. And what do we say that I heard him mumble something that's not evidence? That's a story. The knife is evidence. It's my knife. From my kitchen. I could have put that picture there myself for all anyone knows. She stared at me. You wouldn't do that. But they don't know that. The police don't know me like you do. They see an old man, a cold case, a piece of evidence that's been sitting in his basement for who knows how long. I become a suspect. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I was right. We both knew it. So what do we do? She asked. We find out what Paul knows. Before anyone else does. How? You're his wife. You talk to him. Gently. Casually. Bring up Megan Holloway. See how he reacts. You want me to lie to my husband? I want you to save him, I said. If he did something 22 years ago, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he was scared. But if he's still hiding it, still carrying a knife and a photograph around in his head, he needs help. And you're the only one who can get through to him. Sarah wiped her face with the back of her hand. She nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll try. She left the basement. I stayed behind. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then I went back to the floorboard and pulled it up again. I looked at Megan Holloway's face. Senior prom. 1998. Something was gnawing at me. Something Paul had said. No one finds the truth. Not a truth. He said the truth. Like there was only one. Like he knew exactly what it was. And then it hit me. Paul didn't go to high school here. He didn't know Megan. But the photograph was from her prom. Not his. So how did he get it? I turned the photograph over again. Looked at the back. Megan, senior prom, 1998. The handwriting. I'd seen it before. Somewhere. A long time ago. It was neat. Loopy. The kind of cursive you don't see anymore. I stared at it until my eyes burned. And then I remembered Jeannie. Jeannie had handwriting just like that. The same loops. The same slant that I felt the blood drain from my face. My wife. My dead wife. She wrote on the back of this photograph. I dropped the picture like it burned me. It fluttered to the concrete floor. My wife knew Megan Holloway. My wife had this photograph. My wife kept it hidden in a floorboard in our basement. And Paul found it. Tonight. He discovered the photograph and the knife. And he was trying to. What? Hide it, destroy it, bury it again. He wasn't the one hiding the truth. He was the one who found it. I knelt down slowly. Picked up the photograph with shaking hands. My wife had this picture. She kept it. She hid it. She never told me. I spent 35 years married to Jeannie. I thought I knew everything about her. Her laugh. Her fears. The way she hummed when she baked. The way she held my hand in the dark. And now this. I sat on the basement floor for a long time. The freezer hummed. The water heater clicked. The house settled around me like it was trying to tell me something. Finally, I stood up. My knees cracked. My back ached. I climbed the stairs. I dialed Sarah's number. Don't talk to Paul yet, I said. Not about this. I need to do something first. What? I need to find out who Megan Holloway really was. Dad? What are you talking about? But I'd already hung up. I pulled on my old jacket and went out the front door. The sun was up. The neighbors were starting their day. Mr. Carson was watering his hydrangeas. Mrs. Perez was walking her poodle. Normal. Everything looked normal. But inside me, everything was coming apart. Because I just realized that the truth wasn't in Paul's hands. It was in Jeannie's. And Jeannie had taken it to the grave. I drove to the town library at 9:13 in the morning. The same library where I'd taken Sarah for story time when she was 4. The same reference desk where Jeannie used to volunteer on Tuesdays. Mrs. Kowalski was behind the desk. She was 80 if she was a day, with silver hair and glasses on a chain. She'd worked here since before I moved to Maple Street. "Frank," she said, smiling. "It's been months. How are you? I need a favor, Eileen." A big one. Her smile faded. She saw something in my face. "Come into the back," she said. She led me to a small office filled with old newspapers and microfilm machines. The smell of yellowed paper and dust. It smelled like time. "What are you looking for, Megan Holloway?" Eileen went still. Her hand went to her chest. "That poor girl," she said quietly. "Why now, Frank? I found something. In my house. A photograph. I need to know everything about her. Who she was. Who her friends were. Who she dated." Eileen studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded and turned to a filing cabinet. "I remember her," she said. "She was a lovely girl. Smart. But troubled, I think. She had a difficult home life. Her father drank. Her mother worked 2 jobs. Megan spent a lot of time at the library. She read everything." "Did she have a boyfriend?" Eileen pulled out a thin folder. "We kept clippings from the local paper. Not much. It was a small town. The disappearance didn't get much attention outside the county." She handed me the folder. I sat down and started reading. The first clipping was a missing person notice. Dated October 14th, 1998. Megan had been last seen at a convenience store on Route 12. She was wearing her jean jacket. A clerk said she bought a soda and left. That was it. The second clipping was a follow-up. November 2nd, 1998. No leads. No suspects. The sheriff's department said they were pursuing all angles. That was code for "we have nothing." The third clipping was from 1999. A brief mention. The case had gone cold. The fourth clipping stopped me cold. It was a wedding announcement. July 2001. Eugene Holloway, father of missing teen Megan Holloway, married Janet Morrison in a private ceremony. I read it twice. Megan's father had remarried. 3 years after his daughter disappeared. I felt a cold thread wind through my chest. Then I saw something else. At the bottom of the clipping, there was a small list of wedding guests. Names. People from town. One name stood out. Jeannie Powell. My wife. She attended the wedding. She knew Megan's father. I looked up at Eileen. "Did Jeannie know the Holloway family?" Eileen hesitated. "Frank, I don't like to speak ill of the dead." "Eileen, please." She sighed. Jeannie was close with Megan. Very close. She helped Megan with schoolwork. She would drive her home when the weather was bad. Some people said Jeannie was like a second mother to her. I felt the room tilt. "Why didn't she ever tell me?" Eileen looked at me with pity. "I don't know, Frank. I'm sorry." I left the library with the folder tucked under my arm. I sat in my truck in the parking lot and stared at the dashboard. My wife was a second mother to a girl who disappeared. She kept that girl's prom photo hidden in our basement. She married me 3 years before Megan vanished. I never knew any of this. I started the truck. My hands were shaking. I drove to the only place I could think of. The Holloway house. It was on the edge of town, a small bungalow with peeling paint and a sagging porch. The yard was overgrown. A dog barked somewhere inside. I knocked on the door. It opened a crack. An old man's face peered out. Gaunt. Bloodshot eyes. He wore a stained undershirt and smelled like whiskey. "What do you want?" His voice was gravel and rust. "Mr. Holloway, Eugene Holloway." "Who's asking?" "My name is Frank Powell. My wife was Jeannie Powell. She knew your daughter." Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. And then something darker. "Jeannie," he said. "That name I remember." "Can I come in?" He opened the door. Not wide. Just enough. The house was dark, crammed with furniture and piles of old newspapers. A television played with the sound off. The dog was a beagle, old and fat, lying on a torn couch. "What do you want?" Holloway repeated. He sat down heavily in a recliner. It groaned under his weight. "I found a photograph," I said, "of Megan, from her senior prom, in my basement, hidden under a floorboard." He stared at me. His mouth hung open just a little. "That photograph was in Jeannie's things," he said. "I gave it to her." I froze. "You gave it to her after Megan disappeared?" "Jeannie came to me. She was heartbroken. She and Megan were close. Jeannie wanted something to remember her by. I had a box of Megan's old stuff. I gave her that photograph." "Why didn't Jeannie tell me?" Holloway laughed. "It was a cold, brittle sound. Because she was in love with you." and she couldn't tell you the truth. The truth about what? He leaned forward. His eyes were sharp now. Sharp and clear and dangerous. The truth about where Megan was the night she disappeared. I sat down hard in the nearest chair. You're telling me you know what happened? I know who she was with. Who? A boy. A construction worker. He worked for a company that was paving the new parking lot at the high school. Megan had a crush on him. She used to watch him work from the bleachers. Who was he? Holloway looked at me. His eyes held mine. You don't remember, Frank. You were there. You paved that parking lot. The room went silent. The television flickered. The dog snored. I don't remember her, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. You don't remember a pretty 16-year-old girl who brought you lemonade every day? You don't remember telling her she was too young for you? My mind was reeling. I remembered the job. Summer of '98. Hot. Sweaty. The asphalt smelled like tar and gasoline. But the girl with the lemonade, no. I didn't remember her. I didn't know she was Holloway's daughter. I said, but you knew her. And she disappeared 2 weeks after you told her to stop coming around. I stood up. I had nothing to do with Megan's disappearance. I didn't say you did, Holloway said. I said Jeannie gave me a place to put my guilt. What are you talking about? He was quiet for a long time. The beagle whined in his sleep. I was a drunk, Holloway finally said. A mean drunk. Megan was scared of me. The night she disappeared, she was running away. She told Jeannie she was running away. Jeannie was going to help her. Help her run. Megan was going to stay with Jeannie until she turned 18. Jeannie had a spare room. She told Megan it was safe. She promised she would take care of her. I stared at him. But the night she was supposed to leave, Megan never showed up, Holloway continued. Jeannie called me. I was half drunk. I told her I didn't care. I said some things I shouldn't have. What did you say? I said I was glad she was gone. I said I hoped she never came back. His voice cracked. The next day, Jeannie found the photograph in her house. She said Megan must have left it there. She came to me and asked if she could keep it. I said yes. Jeannie never told the police. She told them Megan was running away. She told them she didn't know where she was going. She gave them a description of a boy Megan had been seen with. A boy with a green truck. A boy who worked construction. My blood went cold. A green truck from the high school parking lot job. The foreman remembered. He told the police about the guy who had been talking to Megan every day. They questioned him, but he had an alibi. He was at a bar 30 miles away the night she disappeared. I was barely breathing. Who was it? Who was the foreman? Charlie Gilroy. He was the foreman on that job. He's dead now. Died 5 years ago. But I remember what he told me. He said the boy in the green truck was a kid from out of town. Hired for the summer. Worked hard. Kept to himself. Charlie said he seemed like a decent kid. But he also said something else. Holloway's voice dropped to a whisper. He said the boy's father had money. Connections. And that the case got shut down real fast. Shut down how? The sheriff at the time was a man named Tom Brady. He was friends with the boy's father. I don't know what deal was made, but I know that boy's name was never released. He got a clean slate. And Megan, Holloway stopped. His eyes were wet. Megan never got anything. I sat there in the dark, crowded living room, watching the old man's face crumble. And I realized something that made my stomach drop. I had been on that job. I had worked alongside that foreman, Charlie Gilroy. I had driven a green truck. But it wasn't me. I knew that. The timeline didn't fit. I was with Jeannie that night. I remembered it clearly. We had gone to a movie. The new one with Tom Hanks. I had the ticket stub somewhere. I had a rock-solid alibi. Which meant there was another boy. Another construction worker. Another green truck. And whoever he was the one who disappeared Megan Holloway. And Jeannie knew about it. Jeannie helped cover it up. I looked at Holloway. Did Jeannie tell you who it was? No, he said. She never told me his name. She said she protected Megan. That's all she said. But I've wondered, Frank. I've wondered for 22 years. And now you're here, asking questions. So I'll ask you one. He looked up at me with those bloodshot eyes, and I saw the grief behind them. The loss. The years of not knowing. Was it worth it? He asked. All the secrets, all the lies. Was it worth losing your daughter? Because I see the way she treats you. I see it. And I know what it costs. I had no answer for him. I got up, walked out of that dark, sad house, and drove home in silence. Sarah was there when I got back. She was sitting on the porch steps, waiting. Paul came home early, she said. He's inside. He knows something's going on. He asked me if I was okay. I said I was fine. I lied, Dad. I lied to my husband for the first time. You did the right thing. Did I? Because I feel sick. I feel like I'm losing everything. I sat down next to her on the steps. We're not going to lose anything. We're going to find out the truth. And then we're going to decide what to do with it. She looked at me. Her eyes were red. Tired. Do you trust me, Dad, with my life? I said it was a lie. I didn't trust her. Not the way I used to. Because I had just found out that my wife, the love of my life, had kept secrets from me for 22 years. And the same wife had raised a daughter who was hiding something too. Something in her eyes. Something she wasn't telling me. I reached over and squeezed her hand. It's going to be okay, I said. But I didn't believe it because I had just made a decision. I was done being invisible. I was done being the quiet, dependable stepdad. I was going to find out what happened to Megan Holloway. I was going to find out why Jeannie covered it up. And I was going to bring everything into the light. No matter who it burned that I sat in my truck for a long time after leaving Holloway's house. The engine ticked as it cooled. My hands were still shaking on the steering wheel. I stared at the dashboard and tried to make sense of everything I'd just learned. Jeannie knew a boy with a green truck. Jeannie helped Megan run away. Jeannie covered for someone. And that someone wasn't me. I started the engine and drove to the high school. The parking lot I'd paved in '98 was still there. Cracked now. Weeds pushing through the asphalt. I parked and walked to the bleachers where Megan used to sit and watch the workers. I sat down on the rusty metal and closed my eyes. I tried to remember that summer. The heat. The smell of tar. The foreman, Charlie Gilroy, yelling at us to keep moving. The crew was mostly locals. But there was one kid. A kid from somewhere else. I remembered him now. Quiet. Kept his head down. Worked harder than anyone. He drove a green Ford Ranger with a dented tailgate. I remembered because I'd helped him jumpstart it one morning when his battery died. I never knew his name. We just called him the kid. I opened my eyes. The bleachers creaked beneath me. Somewhere, a lawnmower buzzed. Normal sounds. Small-town sounds. But my mind was racing. I drove to the sheriff's department. It was a squat brick building on Main Street, the same one that had been there since I was a boy. I walked in and asked to see the old case files on Megan Holloway. The deputy at the front desk was a young man. Early 30s. Clean cut. He looked at me with professional suspicion. Those files are sealed, he said. By who? By order of the county. Cold case. You got a reason to be asking. I found evidence. In my house. I think my wife knew something about the disappearance. He studied me. Then he picked up the phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, a door opened at the back of the room. A man walked out. Late 50s. Gray hair. A gut that strained his uniform. I recognized him instantly. Sheriff Tom Brady, the same Tom Brady who had been sheriff 22 years ago. The same Tom Brady who was friends with the boy's father. The same Tom Brady who had shut down the investigation. Frank Powell, he said. I heard you've been asking questions. Tom. It's been a while. Not long enough. He gestured me into his office. I followed him. He closed the door behind us. The room was cluttered with paperwork and trophies. A picture of him shaking hands with the governor hung on the wall. What do you want, Frank? I want to know what happened to Megan Holloway. He sat down behind his desk. He didn't offer me a seat. That case is closed. No, it's cold. There's a difference. He leaned back. Let me give you some advice, Frank. Let sleeping dogs lie. You're a retired man. You got a nice house. A daughter. A son-in-law. You don't need this. 22 years ago, a teenage girl disappeared. And you know who did it. He didn't blink. I know what the evidence said. And the evidence said she was a runaway. The evidence said that because you made it say that. The air in the room changed. His eyes hardened. Watch yourself. Charlie Gilroy told me about the kid with the green truck. The kid from out of town. The kid whose father had connections. The kid you protected. Tom Brady stood up. Charlie Gilroy is dead. He told me before he died. He told Holloway. He told anyone who would listen. Charlie was a drunk. So was Holloway. Doesn't mean they were wrong. He came around the desk. He was bigger than me. He'd always been bigger than me. But I wasn't backing down. Get out of my office, he said, not until you tell me the truth. The truth is, Frank, you're an old man with too much time on your hands. You come into my station, making accusations without a shred of evidence. I could have you arrested for harassment. Do it. Arrest me. Let's see what comes out in the papers. He stared at me. I stared back. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then he smiled. It was not a nice smile. You think you're a hero, Frank. You think you're going to uncover some big conspiracy. Let me tell you something. I've been doing this job for 30 years. I've seen families destroyed by people like you. People who can't leave well enough alone. You want to know what happened to Megan Holloway? Fine. He walked to a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. He dropped it on the desk. Take it. Take the whole file. See for yourself. I hesitated. Something felt wrong. Too easy. Go on, he said. Take it. I reached for the folder. But before my fingers touched it, he put his hand on top of it. Before you do, he said, think about what you're going to find. Think about what it's going to do to your daughter. Think about what it's going to do to your wife's memory. Jeannie didn't kill anyone. Didn't she? The words hung in the air like smoke. Get out of my office, Frank. And don't come back. I walked out of the sheriff's department with nothing. The folder stayed on his desk. He'd been bluffing. Or maybe he hadn't. I didn't know anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, staring at the basement door. Paul had gone to bed early. Sarah was in the guest room. I was alone with my thoughts. At 2:17 a.m., I heard footsteps on the stairs. Paul came down. He didn't see me in the dark. He walked past the kitchen and opened the basement door. I heard his feet on the stairs. I followed him. This time, I was quieter. I'd had a lifetime of practice walking on job sites, stepping over debris, making no sound. I reached the bottom of the stairs and saw him in the dim glow of the pull chain light. He was kneeling at the floorboard. The same floorboard. He pried it up. He reached inside. And he pulled out something I hadn't seen before. Something that had been tucked under the photo. A letter. Yellowed. Folded into a tight square. He opened it and read it. His shoulders started shaking. He was crying. I stepped forward. Paul. He spun. His face was wet with tears. Frank. I can explain. You've been saying that. He held up the letter. This was under the photograph. I found it last night. I was going to tell you this morning. But I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Give it to me. He hesitated. Then he handed it over. I unfolded the letter. The handwriting was Jeannie's. Dear Megan. I know you're scared. I know your father has been drinking and that he said terrible things. But you have to trust me. I have a place for you to stay. It's safe. Nobody will find you. I'll pick you up at the convenience store on Route 12 at 11 p.m. Don't tell anyone. Not even your friends. Just bring what you can carry. I'll take care of you. I promise. Love. Jeannie. The letter was dated October 13th, 1998. The day before Megan disappeared. I read it 3 times. Each time, my heart sank lower. Jeannie was going to help Megan. She had a place for her. She was going to pick her up at 11 p.m. But Megan never showed up. Where did you find this? I asked Paul. My voice was barely a whisper. It was wedged between the photo and the rag. I didn't see it the first time. I came back to check again and found it. Who else knows about this? No one. I didn't tell Sarah. I didn't tell anyone. I was trying to figure out what to do. I looked at him. The fear in his eyes was real. The tears were real. You were down here with a knife? I said. What was that for? He swallowed hard. I was trying to cut the letter out of the rag. It was stuck. I thought if I could get it out, I could read it. And then you came down. You were going to destroy it. No. I was going to protect you. You and Sarah. I didn't know what was in it. I was scared it was something bad. Something that would break your heart. I sat down on the basement floor. The letter trembled in my hands. Jeannie wrote this letter. She was going to help Megan. But Megan never made it to the pickup. Someone got to her first. Who? I thought about the boy in the green truck. The one I couldn't remember. The one whose father had connections. The one Tom Brady had protected. And then I remembered something Charlie Gilroy had told me years ago, in passing, at a bar. Something I'd filed away as meaningless gossip. That kid was a piece of work. His old man was a big shot. Used to come to the job site in a black sedan, talk to the sheriff, talk to the foreman. Made sure nobody asked questions. Charlie had said it with a laugh. But I saw the look in his eyes. He was scared. I looked at Paul. Do you have a phone? He nodded. Call your lawyer. We're going to need one. What's going on? I stood up. My knees hurt. My back hurt. But I felt something else too. Something I hadn't felt in years. Determination. We're going to take this to the press. The local paper. The county prosecutor. The state police. We're going to blow this wide open. Frank, that's dangerous. If the sheriff, let him come. I've been invisible for 30 years. I've been the quiet stepdad, the nice guy, the man who never made waves. Well, I'm done. I walked up the stairs. Paul followed me. At the top, I stopped. Paul. Yeah, the truth you were whispering about. No one finds it. That's what you said. He looked down. I was talking about the floorboard. I'd noticed it was loose. I was trying to fix it. I said, no one finds the truth, because I was thinking about how Jeannie hid that letter, and how nobody found it for 22 years. I stared at him. All this time, I thought he was the one hiding something. He was just trying to fix a floorboard. I started laughing. A low, hollow laugh. Frank, are you okay? I'm better than okay, I said. I finally know what I have to do. At 6 a.m., I was sitting in the office of the county prosecutor. I had the letter. I had Paul's testimony. I had a list of names. I want Tom Brady investigated, I said. I want the case reopened. And I want to know who killed Megan Holloway. The prosecutor was a young woman named Angela Reyes. She was sharp. She didn't look at me like I was a crazy old man. Mr. Powell, I'll be honest with you. This is going to be an uphill fight. The case is old. The evidence is thin. And Tom Brady has a lot of friends in this town. I don't care. Are you prepared for the consequences this will make enemies? It will put you and your family at risk. My family's already at risk. They've been at risk for 22 years. They just didn't know it. Angela Reyes studied me. Then she picked up her phone. I'm going to make a call to the state police. I can't promise anything, but I'll try. Thank you. She smiled. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. I walked out of her office and went home. Sarah was waiting for me. She looked terrified. Dad, what did you do? The right thing. The sheriff called. He threatened to arrest you. Let him. Dad, please. We can't do this. We can't fight them. They're powerful. Sarah, listen to me. I took her by the shoulders. I have spent my whole life being invisible. I've been quiet when I should have spoken. I've been passive when I should have been strong. I did it for you, for your mother, for this family. But you know what I learned? Being invisible doesn't keep anyone safe. It just lets the monsters keep doing what they're doing. She started crying. I'm scared. I know you are. I am too. But we're going to do this anyway. Because Megan Holloway deserves justice. And because I'm not going to let another day go by where I pretend I don't know the truth. Paul came into the room. He stood next to Sarah and put his arm around her. I'm with you, Frank, he said. Whatever happens. Sarah looked at him. Then she looked at me. She nodded. Okay, she said. Okay, we're in. 2 weeks later, the story broke. The local paper ran the headline. Cold case reopened. Letter reveals new evidence in Holloway disappearance. The county prosecutor held a press conference. She announced that the investigation was being reopened. She announced that Tom Brady was being investigated for obstruction of justice, that the boy in the green truck was identified. His name was Robert Whitaker Jr. His father had been a state senator. He'd been protected by the sheriff. He'd gone on to become a lawyer. He'd spent 22 years living free, while Megan Holloway's body lay somewhere in the woods, undiscovered, but the investigation found evidence. Witnesses came forward. People who had been too scared to talk in 1998 finally spoke. They remembered seeing Robert Whitaker Jr. with Megan. They remembered his green truck parked near the convenience store the night she disappeared. They remembered his father's black sedan meeting with the sheriff. Robert Whitaker Jr. was arrested. He was charged with second-degree murder. He was convicted. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. Tom Brady was charged with obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy. He was found guilty. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. And Jeannie's letter was published in the newspaper. Everyone read it. Everyone finally understood that she had tried to save Megan. She had failed. But she had tried. I stood at Jeannie's grave on the day of the sentencing. Sarah and Paul were with me. I put a hand on her headstone. You were brave, I said. You did what you could. You tried to save her. And I'm proud of you. I had spent 30 years being invisible. I had given everything to a family that didn't always see me. But in the end, they saw me. Sarah saw me. Paul saw me. And I saw myself. Sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. The lies that say we don't matter. The lies that say we can't make a difference. But we can. Every one of us. I looked at Sarah. She was crying. But she was also smiling. I love you, Dad, she said, and for the first time in years, I believed her, because the truth had finally set us all free. If this story taught me anything, it's this. You're never too old to stand up for what's right. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one holding the loudest truth. Subscribe for more stories. Tell us yours in the comments.